Before America had Navy SEALs or Green Berets, they had the Pawnee Scouts. Native warriors trained in tracking, survival, and combat, fighting alongside U.S. forces in some of the bloodiest battles of the Plains Wars. But why did they do it? What made them so feared and so controversial? Today, we uncover the story of the Pawnee Scouts, the elite Indigenous warriors the textbooks forgot. This is First Nations Uncovered. The Pawnee are a Plains tribe with deep roots in what is now Nebraska and Kansas. For centuries, they lived in well-organized villages along the Platte River, building dome-shaped earth lodges and cultivating corn, squash, and beans. But they weren't just farmers. They were fierce warriors, deeply spiritual people, and expert astronomers. The Pawnee followed the stars to guide their planting seasons and ceremonies, believing the skies connected them to their ancestors and the Creator. By the early 1800s, the Pawnee were powerful, but surrounded. Pressured by westward expansion, deadly diseases, and raids from enemy tribes like the Lakota and Cheyenne, their population was rapidly declining. In 1875, under growing threats and broken treaties, the U.S. government forced the Pawnee to relocate to what is now Oklahoma. There, in a new and unfamiliar land, they were faced with a brutal question. Should they continue resisting a country that showed them no mercy, or join forces with it to survive? The Pawnee Scouts weren't just trackers. They were frontline warriors. Between 1865 and 1877, they fought in dozens of operations against the Cheyenne, Lakota, and Arapaho across the vast plains of Nebraska, Kansas, and Wyoming. One of their most infamous engagements came in 1873, the Dull Knife Fight. Named after the respected Northern Cheyenne leader Dull Knife, the battle took place near the North Fork of the Solomon River. A combined force of U.S. cavalry and Pawnee Scouts surprised a Cheyenne war party preparing to raid settlements. The result was brutal. Dozens of Cheyenne were killed or captured, and the Scouts played a central role in the outcome. But this was just one of many missions. The Pawnee Scouts were often the first to detect movement, the first to engage, and the last to retreat. They knew the terrain like a second language, reading the land for signs, shadows, and subtle tracks. They could operate in total silence, flank enemies, and disappear before the dust settled. In an era before drones or satellites, they were the eyes and ears of the frontier army. Their success didn't come from numbers or firepower. It came from instinct, experience, and generations of survival. To call them guides is to undersell their legacy. These men weren't just assistants to the army. They were the tip of the spear. Elite soldiers of the plains who shaped the outcome of the Indian Wars more than history has acknowledged. But with legacy comes controversy. Not all tribes saw the Pawnee Scouts as heroes. To some, they were viewed as traitors. Native men who chose to fight alongside the very government that broke treaties, burned villages, and forced nations from their homelands. The idea of Native warriors helping U.S. soldiers hunt down Cheyenne, Lakota, or Arapaho stirred deep resentment among other Plains tribes. These were intertribal enemies. Yes, but they were also fellow Indigenous people resisting the same colonizing force. Yet the Pawnees' choice wasn't made lightly. By the 1860s, they had suffered devastating losses. Land stolen, diseases rampant, buffalo disappearing. They were surrounded on all sides by violence, betrayal, and extinction. To the Pawnee, joining the U.S. Army wasn't an act of allegiance. It was a strategy of survival. A way to protect their own families from starvation and slaughter. A way to strike back at longtime enemies. A way to remain relevant in a world rapidly closing in. History often paints decisions in black and white. But Native history lives in the gray, where survival, sovereignty, and morality collide. The Pawnee Scouts made a choice, one shaped by trauma, desperation, and hope. And for that, they were called heroes by some and condemned by others. They paid that price not just on the battlefield, but in how they've been remembered, questioned, and judged ever since. Today, the story of the Pawnee Scouts lives on, not just in military records or battlefield markers, but in the hearts and history of the Pawnee people themselves. In Pawnee, Oklahoma, the tribe's present-day home, their legacy is honored with pride and complexity. For some, the Scouts represent bravery in the face of impossible choices, a testament to the strength of Indigenous warriors who adapted to a rapidly changing world, yet never abandoned their people. For others, the story brings pain, a reminder of intertribal conflict, government manipulation, and the moral weight carried by Native men asked to fight other Native nations. But the truth lies in the full picture. The Pawnee Scouts were not simply soldiers or symbols. They were real people. Fathers, sons, uncles, protectors. Men who chose the path they thought would keep their people alive. Their legacy can be seen today in ceremonies, in veterans' honor songs, and in the stories passed down from elders to youth. Though history may try to simplify or erase them, the Pawnee Scouts endure as proof that Native survival was not just about resistance. It was also about resilience. They were warriors. They were survivors. They were and still are legends. Thank you for watching First Nations Uncovered. If this story moved you, hit like, subscribe, and share. Help us amplify Native voices and preserve truth. Drop a comment. What do you think of the Pawnee Scouts? Heroes, survivors, or something more?